sins and the impact of sins, and then how to live a life of change where you can get rid of those sins from your daily habits. So that's a beautiful course, a weekend seminar there. And then what my favorite course was the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's life-changing experience. That was something that I was gonna share with you guys today. It literally like opens up your eyes, because the only thing I knew about the names of Allah was like those pictures with the 99 names, or the little nasheeds where they're singing. You guys from Pakistan, you heard of that nasheed where they sing? It's beautiful. It's played in Ramadan. You know what I'm talking about, right? And it has like this blue screen, and Allah's names are popping up. And I'm like, man, I don't know nothing about Allah's names. I realized that after taking that course. In fact, I actually invited my boss from General Motors in Michigan, and he came and he took the whole course. I felt he was going to accept Islam at the end of it, but he literally sat there, took notes, and unfortunately didn't accept Islam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide him, inshallah. And finally, this is what happens when you're taking courses. It starts building up, and you can actually get a degree. So this is I've already graduated, but for some reason, some of my courses are not showing up. So it's showing me like you have 80% completion. So all of your courses, they go in different areas. You have history, hadith, aqidah, fiqh, humanities, Quran, all of that. Once you have enough credits, you get a degree. So it's a legit program, and it's meant for the general Muslim crowd. Whether you know Arabic or not, is sufficient to give you a real amazing boost and be able to, if you graduate from Maghrib, you can very comfortably become a youth director. So that's how I was able to do that, alhamdulillah, and so on. So now here's what I've been doing. I've already visited all of those except for Washington and Minnesota, and Chicago. Chicago is kind of, we haven't worked on it yet, but inshallah that's in the plans. And then these are upcoming new areas that we're exploring. So that's how we ended up in Fresno. Inshallah, I feel like if you guys start coming through and then start inviting the community, it could be a massive impact for the community. And then these are some of the courses that we already talked about. So what happens is, if they show interest, I go back to Al Maghrib headquarters. I say, these guys are ready. Let's bring them a course. Then you guys let me know apart from what's available, and then we make it happen. So that was a little bit on Al Maghrib. So my action item, guys, like I'm big about action items. Don't worry about how much you have to commit to help out. Even if you can just share a flyer with a friend, that's good enough for you to join this WhatsApp group. This is how we're gonna stay in touch, so we can get your ideas and feedback. And if you want to get more active in it with the role and help out the marketing and social media, event management, there's so many things. A lot of our youth actually became project managers by just becoming part of the Maghrib crew and learning how to do finance, full experience. So at the minimum, join the WhatsApp group, and then we can communicate later if you want to become more active with the chapter. But joining the WhatsApp group is mainly basically staying in touch with what's coming and seeing if you guys have any ideas and that sort. So that's about that. Any questions about what was presented so far? Inshallah. Huh? The book's not there? Man, it wasn't meant for it. So I wanted to show you guys the books from Al Maghrib classes. And first, we went to the khutbah today. I did the khutbah, and I forgot to put a sign that these books are not to, just take home. So half of them were gone by the end of the khutbah. Yeah. So and then now I can't find them. So inshallah, once you're on the WhatsApp group, we'll share some of those pictures there for you. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Bring them. If you guys can bring them so people can see the sample, right? So yeah, hope you guys benefited from that aspect of it. Just wanted to make sure before I leave, you guys know a little bit about Maghrib. So let's go back to some of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about real quick. The reason for today's class was this ayah. So بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إن كان آباؤكم وأبناؤكم وإخوانكم وأزواجكم وعشيرتكم وأموال اقترفتموها وتجارة تخشون كسادها ومساكن ترضونها أحب إليكم من الله ورسوله وجهاد في سبيله فتربصوا حتى يأتي الله بأمره والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين. Say, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, your relatives, your wealth which you have obtained, the business which you fear the decline in, and your dwellings in which you are pleased are more beloved to you than so there was 8 things that are listed there. So these 8 things, if they are more beloved to you than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and jihad, struggling in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then wait. So this is a warning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then wait until Allah executes His command, and Allah does not guide the defiantly disobedient people. So what's happening right now is we're seeing people who are being tested with all of those 8 things that we mentioned. Houses have been taken away. They're seeing a decline in their business. They're losing their loved one, their fathers, their sons, their brothers, their wives. And at the end of that, you see a Palestinian woman who, Sister Yasmin Mujahid actually wrote a little bit of a script about her, who's one of our instructors as well. And she said that lady, her iman, she was basically sending a message out. There was a video sent out, and Sister Yasmin just kind of broke down, and she wrote this piece about it. And she said that this lady was writing a video and saying, "How are you guys doing?" She was asking the rest of the ummah, "How are you doing?" Because she knows like we're stressed out seeing our brothers and sisters getting killed like that, and she was checking up on us. And so Sister Yasmin's like, "What kind of iman is this? SubhanAllah, we should be checking on you guys. We can't do anything, but she's worried about us. What is your mental health like, right? Like we have mental health issues and we're, alhamdulillah, living comfortably. But these guys, their iman, subhanAllah, that they're saying, inshallah, we'll meet our kids in the next world. Some of them have already lost a kid. Like I saw another brother today on Instagram, and he's saying that, alhamdulillah, like he's actually in the hospital and people have lost their loved one. He's going one by one to them. He's like, "What are you guys worrying about? Our dead are in Jannah. They're martyrs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, promised us Jannah. Why are you guys worried? Be happy." And then he's just like, and then like, "Did you lose somebody?" He's like, "Yeah, I just lost 2 of my kids. But I know that I'm gonna meet them, and this world is very temporary." So you're like, wow, like how do you get that kind of iman? Is because they love Allah and His Rasul and working for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than anything else. And they were ready for it. And a brother, I was just talking to him, it's like he's a doctor at professor of physiology. So I'm like, what is your thought about mental health? And I was having a good conversation and kind of asking him, like, I'm at an age where I'm starting to worry about losing my parents, and I'm starting to realize that my kids have grown up to a point where I'm not going to have those memories of holding their hand and all the fun stuff. Right now is basically just life as usual, right? Alhamdulillah, there's new memories coming, but how do you cope with that, right? And his answer was, and subhanAllah goes with this ayah, you need to start thinking about more than this world. We need to learn how to detach because it's meant to be temporary. And once you can get to that level, that's when you see the iman of this lady. And then her son said to her mother that, "I'm not dying, mom. I'm actually being elevated." So Sister Yasmin said, do you guys realize that there are 2 realms right now? One is the reality that what we can see, and then there's the realm of the unseen. So for this child to say what he said, there's no way that he didn't somehow get inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the time of his death. To be able to say, how is a 3-year-old gonna say, "Mom, don't worry, I'm not dying, I'm actually being elevated"? Like this, there has to be that ayah that we know, "Inna ladina qalu rabbuna Allahu thumma istaqamu tatanazzalu alayhimul malaika," that upon them the angels descend, and as long as they have istiqama. So their parents has istiqama, and even the child as they're leaving. Let's look at home, Chicago, Wadia, right? Brother Wadia, who was just killed. Did you guys know how many times he was stabbed? 26 times. And my cousin is from Chicago. He said when the mother approached the child, the dagger was still in him. So imagine having to pull that out. And then the child said, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm not hurting. I'm okay. I'll be fine." Like, what kind of iman, right? Like, how is that child even able to say that? SubhanAllah, just put ourselves in that picture, right? Like, look what people are going through. And SubhanAllah, then think about the fact that there could be Muslims dying right now, maybe in the wrong gathering, committing some kind of sin. And the last thing they were thinking is, how unjust is Allah? And I hate Allah. Na'udhu billah, and they die in that state, right? And then these people are dying, and SubhanAllah, we're going to be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And this is the response of the individual who had a roof on top of his head. He was living a secure life. He had education. He felt like he's comfortable. But this is the way he treated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is his conclusion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while a person like that is dying with these beautiful statements, and the parents are saying, "We're going to see you in the next world." And they are convinced about it. It's not like just a cliche statement. There you can see the conviction in their statements. So with that, I felt that it's important to understand why we need to know about names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's where you need to go deeper. Like, we can't have surface level knowledge, right? So this is like one of the things we cover in 1 hour of the Maghrib class in the course called His Majesty. But time is too short. I literally got 1 minute left if we want to do Kahoot. But we can maybe come back for 10 minutes after Isha. I do want to do the Kahoot with you guys. So when it comes to names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I just wanted to bring up this hadith that is misunderstood. we started off this with this hadith in the Al-Maghrib course where the Prophet said that Allah has 99 names, and he very specifically said 100 minus 1. And whoever ahsaha, so I highlighted it, dakhal al jannah, whoever encompasses it. It sometimes gets translated as whoever memorizes it, which makes sense because that's why you have the nasheed playing, and people are like, okay, I'm just going to memorize the 99 names and I'm going to Jannah, right? But encompasses has multiple levels. The first level is to get to even know what those names are, and sorry to break it down for you, but there's no list of 99 names of Allah. It's a process of deriving those names. It's a scholarly process, but there's no list out there. In fact, this hadith might have a continuation, but the person who was narrating it, or the student of the person that was narrating it, went on to then list out the names of Allah, and people didn't realize that's not part of the hadith. So they might think that there's an actual list of 99 names of Allah out there, but it's a scholarly process. They have to go through the Quran, figure out through the Arabic language what is the name of Allah. What some people have listed 250 names of Allah. Some have listed, who are very loose in their definition of what constitutes a name of Allah, to up to 900 names of Allah, and others have much less, right? So the point here is it's not about just memorizing the names of Allah, but it's to encompass ahsaha, which number one is to get to do that research, actually go like what is the name of Allah, and find out about those names, right? Many people might not even know what Ash-Shakir, Ash-Shakur, Al-Jabbar, Al-Wadud, Al-Mannan, what do these names mean? And if they know, then the next level is to actually call on to Allah by those names, to make dua to Allah by those names. So we have to ask ourselves, what was the last time I reached out to Allah by His name Al-Jabbar? What was the last time I made dua and I actually specifically called out to the name Al-Jabbar? Or what was the last time I said Ash-Shakir and Ash-Shakur? But once you go deeper, you realize you actually start to have a conversation, and every particular incident in your life, you're able to remember a name of Allah. Now, what's bigger than that, though, is this ayah for me, where atheism can be solved if we actually knew the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you won't find verses in the Quran giving a lot of attention to the atheist. Like I said, it's such a foolish thought process. And we can talk about some of the things like how prove to me God exists. Okay, well, the fact that this projector is working, I can show you that this could not have happened unless different causes took place. And if everything was if this projector was dependent on that HDMI wire, which was dependent on my laptop, which was dependent on me turning it on, which was dependent upon me, there has to be somewhere it needs to stop where a person initiates the first action and then the rest of the ripple effect happens, right? So if I never turned on my laptop, you won't be seeing this and all of this wouldn't happen. So I'm that person who made the first initial thing. But if I also was depending on something else, this process will keep on going. This is logically impossible for you to be even seeing this. So how is it that everything exists in this world and then we just say, oh, it just came by chance, right? It just, everything just kind of happened, right? So the next thing is people would say, well, it just happened because nature is God. You know, everything, universe itself is God. Well, it does not follow the definition of God, and we're going to talk about that. But I wanted to show you how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala briefly talks to the atheists without really spending a lot of time. You'll see a lot of time spent on idol worshippers or people of the book. But when it comes to atheists, this is probably the closest that we can find, where the crux of the problem is told to us, where Allah says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. So again, He says, I have the best names. Allah has the best names. فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Call on to me by those names. This is a command. So it's not just knowing the names, but actually talk to Allah by those names. Make dua to Allah by those names. And then Allah goes on to say, وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ ilhad, which means to deviate from something. And scholars explain, like they even go and talk about the grave, that there's two different types of grave. One of the graves is you dig down and you put a little hole in the middle and you put the body and then you cover it up. Another grave is where you go down and you cut to the side, right? You might have seen it in Medina. That's called ilhad, that you deviated, like you went away from the path. So this is what happens to the atheists, is they have a lack of understanding of Allah's all of His names and attributes. And the reason for a lot of atheism is the fall of the concept of Trinity and Christianity. They just don't know about the fact that there is an alternative, which is called Islam. And what happens is in Christianity, when you think about Christianity, what is the main word that comes to mind about God? Like, what is the relationship that is portrayed? So if I say God, what do you think of? God is what? Love, right? Or yeah, God is love, right? That's the main thing that's focused on. And they will say stuff like show the other cheek, which is not even a statement from Jesus, because if it was about show the other cheek for everything, would we have ever justice in this world? If we just show the other cheek, right? That's not even a prophetic statement, because there are times where you have to fight against injustice. But the point is, they would focus on three of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they forget about another name, and that's what causes them to fall into the next trap of shaitan, which is, how can Allah be these three names and still all of these bad things are happening? So the names that they focus on are, and we have a name for that in the Quran already, but they will say, if God is so loving and God is so merciful and God is so just, then why is there evil in the world? Which name of Allah did they forget about that they did not put in the picture, which is also very important. So, so let's put the Arabic names to this: merciful, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, loving, Al-Wudud, and most just. What is the name for that? Al-Adl. But what is another name that's missing from the picture? Huh? Ghaffar, forgiving. Huh? Punishes. Jabbar, Kahar. Huh? Rahim. That's also to do with mercy. Multaqim, the one who takes, not takes revenge, but he punishes and retributes. Okay. No, but there's one really important concept, because without that, this world will not make sense. What does Allah have? Hakim. There you go. Al Hakim. So if you take Al Hakim out of the picture, this world is gonna seem very chaotic, because it's temporary. The full justice. That's why even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, what do the angels say? Why are you creating someone that's going to create havoc? Because they knew this is what comes as a result of free will. So that's another point of discussion when it comes to the problem of evil. Muslims don't have a problem with evil. It's an atheistic term, but we have a whole list of solutions for that, which I'm not going to get the time to talk about. But this is the key: is to Allah belongs the best names, invoke Allah by those names, and leave the company of those who practice deviation concerning His names. That's what atheism is. They just focus on one aspect of Him, and they don't know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they deviate from the names and understanding of Allah, and they start having the wrong idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why, like I gave the example, the atheist who comes and says, I hate God, or He doesn't exist because all this stuff happened. Well, you can close your eyes, but it's not going to change the reality. And there is going to be a day of judgment. There is going to be retribution, but they just didn't do their research, and they only thought emotionally. But if they submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things start making sense. And I think the brother was here saying as well, eventually you just got to understand that you got to, we're not meant to be here forever, right? Like even if people are not taken in the way that things are happening in Gaza, we're still going to either we go first or our parents go first. There's going to be loss. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the year of Huzn, the whole year, which is called the year of sadness, what happened? Why is it called the year of sadness for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Right, his wife, which is his emotional, financial. That's like the strength of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's dawah, by the way, right? Like we have all this feminism and people trying to figure out the roles, but Islam was about working as a team. So the Prophet ﷺ, the first person he goes to when he's completely confused and the angel Jibreel comes and he becomes a prophet, he goes to his wife. So that's the strength of his wife, right? And now he loses that. And his uncle, Abu Talib, he loses him as well in the same year. It was a year of sadness, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that to the Prophet ﷺ to show him to not depend on anyone other than Allah. That's the reason that Allah wanted him to do, be ready. And then right after that, Isra wal Mi'raj happened, right? So whatever we're seeing in the Ummah, you can see. Okay, forget about like what you're feeling. Is there anyone who just raise your hand if you agree that from the last 10 years till now, let's I'm sure everyone here has been born for last 10 years. So in the last 10 years till now, have you not felt that the Ummah has grown with all of our problems, but do you not feel that the Ummah has gotten stronger? Like in my time, would we be actually having lectures like this in a masjid? Like I don't remember that. Like in my time, like that wasn't that far ago when I was a university student. Or people coming together and forgetting about their differences, and everyone's focused on Gaza. But what you don't realize is we're also getting united. We forgot all of a sudden all about our differences, right? Who places a hand here or here? We're like, we got bigger things to worry about right now, and everyone's kind of united. That happened because of the extreme calamity, and now it's waking us up. We're realizing that the only friend we have is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we tried the politicians, we tried our own leaders, and we got slapped around. We tried Pierce Morgan, right? Like all these people, and now realize the only one that is going to help us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He's on our side, then there's no loss, right? So lastly, I want to leave you guys with a definition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially the youth, to help you understand when people throw these questions at you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is independent. He doesn't depend on anything. He's self-sufficient and he's necessary, right? So he had to be there for this whole world to exist. The fact that we're breathing, talking, and all of that, and an atheist comes up with all of his scientific stuff, well, the fact that he's even speaking, he owes it to someone who allowed that to happen, right? There's no way I could be speaking right now if someone independent allowed all of this to take place. And universe cannot be God. Why? Because we can go by that definition. How can universe not be God? It's dependent. We even science will tell you, right? It depends on things. So that can't be God, right? So these three are exactly that's the power of Tawheed, the Kalama, and Surah Al-Ikhlas. We can learn all of that. We don't have to explain our Trinity concept and with analogies like if you had an egg, and so you have the shell and the yolk and the white part, but then someone's like, what if the egg has two yolks? It's kind of just right, and then it's right. We don't have to give examples like that. It's like clear cut. This is who Allah is, right? That's how powerful the Quran is. Just 4 ayat and you're done. Now let's say you'll hear about these fallacies like if God is so powerful, can God create a rock so heavy that even He can't lift? Have you heard of that? So how do you explain? How can you like go back to the definition and say, that makes no sense? Like the question, by the way. Okay, who wants to? Bro, what's your name? Yusuf? So Yusuf, how many days are in the week? Yes or no? How many days in the week? Yes or no? So do you see my point? So people throw these questions that it's like, what are you talking about? So can you create a triangle can you create a triangle with 4 corners? Like, bro, that's not a triangle. Like, what are you doing? Right? So it's like people come up with these crazy questions that makes no sense. Or can God just not exist? And can God do something where He doesn't exist anymore? What are you talking about? Like, that's not a quality of God. That's not God anymore. Because if He did that, then He's dependent on something, right? To not exist anymore. Only human beings can do something like that, where they create something so heavy that they can't lift. But that's not God. So people try to like squeeze people into these definitions, and they try to compare Him to human beings, but they're gonna falter. That's never gonna happen. How about prove to me that God exists? We already did that, right? So remember these 3 terms, and finally, so I was going to talk to you guys about Al Hayy, Al Qayyum, Al Latif, Al Wadud, but we'll skip this too. Now let's talk about the miracle of the Quran. All of these prophets, what is something that's different between Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's miracles and the miracles of Musa Alayhi Salam splitting the ocean, the sea, Isa Alayhi Salam speaking as a baby boy, healing the leopard, raising people from the dead, Ibrahim Alayhi Salam, fire becoming cool for him, Saleh, the she camel. So what's different between the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad versus all the other prophets? Yes. Beautiful. The only living miracle right now is the Quran, right? So that is one of the reasons why we don't need another prophet. People might think like we're like Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the greatest of mankind and the greatest of all the prophets. But the reason for another prophet not to also come is because we have a living miracle. So this is something we need to bring up. So that's why you need to take Quranic courses, and there's all kinds of courses about that in Maghrib as well, where you can go in depth about proving that Quran is a miracle. But here's a great summary if you want to take a picture or whatnot. But like, if you just remember the word miracle, this is how it's easy to remember. So M stands for the fact that Allah, the Maker, is the author, meaning the one who the Quran is not the authorship of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but it is Allah Himself. It's infallible, has no mistakes. It's been retained in its purity, in its message, and its memorization. It has advanced knowledge. It was able to predict that the Romans are going to beat the Persians, which is like saying Israel is going to be completely defeated and Gaza folks are going to take over Israel in the next year. If somebody says that right now, we'll call them crazy. But that's the kind of claim the Quran made, and that's exactly what happened. So these kind of things exist, right? Comprehensive guidance. Quran is not just focused on your modes of worship, but it talks about finances, talks about how genders they interact with each other. It's a whole package, right? Easy to remember, and it has scientific knowledge. So this is a way to remember. And also, some people might say, well, nobody wrote the Quran. That's not true, actually. From the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was the oral, preservation of the Quran, but it was also being written by the companions of the prophets. But later, Abu Bakr and Uthman are the one that compiled it and it came into a book form. But up till then, there was also scribes. So it's not that it wasn't. So there's no other book like this. Like a Bible cannot come even close to that, right? The people who wrote the Bible, Jesus was already gone to be able to approve the final Bible that exists today. To be able to say, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the final Bible. Jesus was long gone before that. But in the time of Prophet ﷺ, you have the final copy. You know everything that's been written and memorized, and the Prophet ﷺ was there to approve it. So this is something that we can tell people when it comes to the Quran. Prophets, again, it's important to learn about the prophets. So we have a whole course on that. And these are the 25 prophets mentioned in the Quran. A lot of non-Muslims have no idea about that, right? So these are mentioned in the Bible as well. And obviously, Isa, Jesus, is one of the greatest prophets that we can connect with people around us. And finally, we also need to learn why the Prophet ﷺ is a prophet of Allah, right? And that's a conversation that could also affect our iman. But you can literally sit down and realize that there's no other option but the fact that he was a prophet. So these are some of the examples for that. I have to go real quick. And at the end, we end up with what is Islam. So if now that we know about Allah, we know about His Messenger, we know about the Quran, then you can present Islam to people. This is a really good definition from one of our shuyukh who is very active in giving da'wah to the non-Muslims from Why Islam. And I really like this definition because it makes it easy for the common audience to understand. Islam, we don't say it's peace because then they're like, oh, why are you guys fighting all the time? But Islam was never meant to be peace. It's submission. By submitting to Allah, you attain peace and purity by following the commandments of the Creator and everything that exists. Whoever does that is a Muslim. So if somebody asks you real quick, I don't think we're gonna be able to do Kahoot. We're already over time, maybe after Isha. But real quick, if somebody asks you, why do you guys not eat pork? How do you answer that? Yes. So by the way, my name is Bob, for example. So Bob comes up and, what does that mean? What is salam alaikum? I'm Bob. I don't know what salam alaikum means. So okay. I'm like, imagine I'm Bob, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So I come up to you like, hey man, like what's why do you guys not eat pork? Hello. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So I'm gonna pause you right there. So first of all, she did really good in connecting with the person. Well, I already told you my name, but if you don't know, like we obviously we minimize our interaction with the opposite gender, but it's good to know the person's name so you can make them feel comfortable. But you did a good job. You said because Allah commanded me to. So, but you might want to use a different term and explain. But what the first thing I would do, and this applies to any question, but the next thing you did is you went into the scientific stuff, which is what most of us end up doing. And you can apply this to even the Gaza situation. Every question that comes up to us, how come your prophet did this? Or how come your did this? We start answering the question. But what we need to do is, hey, Bob, thank you for the question. It's a really good question. I would love to answer your question. But before I do you know about Islam? We're like, no. Do you believe in God? No. Oh, yes. Okay. Then you take them to the next phase, which is what kind of version of God does he believe in? So that the reason I asked you that is I want to leave you with this really awesome technique. So our priority in every conversation, so now I'm giving a little bit of how to talk to non-Muslims, is we need to go back to Tawheed. Otherwise, you're going to be going in circles about inheritance law, about why the Prophet married Aisha at this age, about why pork is bad because of the health reasons, but they might be like, oh well, beef has those issues too, and then you're kind of going in circles because they'll come from another medical angle, and then you're like stuck. But they never hear about what is Tawheed, what is Allah, what is Islam. So this basically stands for Go Rap. It's not promoting rap music, but it's just to remember. So first you talk about, hey Bob, do you believe in a God? Right? Maybe he's an atheist. So you help him understand. But let's say he does believe in God, then you focus on the oneness of God because he might have a very twisted version of God, right? Like idol worshiping or whatever the case might be. So you focus on oneness, that no, there's only one entity, the one that we submit to, and you explain oneness of God. R stands for revelation. So now you need to show them what the Quran is, right? So a lot of times we don't bring up the Quran in the conversation. That's why I talked about Quran. Then A is just and P is a prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's the complete package dawah, right? When you're talking to a non-Muslim, once you do that, alhamdulillah, we're getting shahadas left and right in Dallas. I don't know here, but like on a weekly basis, 10 people accepting Islam, like on a consistent basis, alhamdulillah. So I just felt like I wanted to make this a little practical. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and inshallah we'll be back tomorrow for a small khatra. But I was going to talk to you about the problem of evil, and other questions about God. Some of it was put together. But yeah, guys, I would just say please join this WhatsApp group to stay in touch with us. If you want to join the team more officially, you can also, just join the WhatsApp group. We'll communicate there, and then we'll pray Isha. And then if you guys want to do Kahoot after, we'll do a poll. How many is that possible to do, or is it too late? How many guys want to do Kahoot after and get those after Isha for like 10 minutes? So you'll be playing a game. All right. Few people? Okay, because we had like prizes for you guys too. But anyways, we'll see what happens, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Hey, quiet, 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 quiet. Hey, quiet, quiet. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله